Okay, we have some more code to go. We have defined the view, the search, and the add buttons. So now we have the delete, the update, and the close button. And I'd like to continue with the delete button because the delete button is easier to implement than the update button. So let me call the interface again. And again, think about the user. What the user might expect is that they may want to delete one of the rows, let's say this row. So they expect to select this row and then they press the delete selected button and this row will disappear from the database. And they may also want to, when they select a row, they may also want to see the data in these entries. And we will take care of that too, so we will fill these entries with the corresponding values when the user clicks one of the rows here. Alright, that makes sense, I believe. And now let's look at the delete function in the backend script. So what delete does is it expects for an ID, the ID of the row, and then this SQL statement then looks for this ID and deletes the entire row of the book table where the ID is equal to this given ID here. So what we need to do is when the user selects one of the rows in the list box, we need to grab the ID of that row and then send that ID to the delete function of the backend script. And then the delete function takes care of the row. Oh, good. And again, in this case, we would also want to append some sort of delete command function to the to the delete button. But in this case, I would actually like to do a bottom-up approach. So let's first think of how we're gonna get the row selected by the user. So let's think about that first. And you don't know probably, but there is a method called bind of the Tkinter library, and bind is used to bind a function to a widget event. So let me write that bind method so that you understand things better. So we are binding a method here to the list box widget. So it makes sense to write that method after we have defined the list widget. So we define the list widget here and we configure it, and then list1 dot bind, and the bind method takes two arguments. So it takes the event type and also it takes the function that you want to bind to the event type. The event type here is actually goes inside these characters and it's called listbox select. And then you want to specify a function here that returns a list object with a selection. So something like this. Actually, we will expect a tuple in this case. A tuple with the ID, the title, the author, and the year, and the ISBN number. So let's call that function get selected row. Okay. And then we go ahead and define that function. Let's define it in the very beginning here. So def get selected row, and this function now, because we have binded to an event, to a widget event, this function gets a special parameter called event, and the event parameter holds the information about the type of the event. So Python knows that when you pass this to the bind method, it expects the function to have this event parameter. And then, so again, this function will return the tuple, the selected tuple. But first of all, the way this works is that we first need to get the index of the list from the list box. You know, the list may have, let's say, 10 rows, and the first row will have an index of 0, the second an index of 1, and so on, up to 9 if we have 10 rows. So to get the index of the selected row of the list box, we refer to the list box and then to the selection method of the list box. Alright, and I'd actually like to just make a temporary return of the index here, so that you see what this object is and how it looks like. So let's hope this will work. It should work. Python front end, yep. And so view all. Actually, we should have printed out the index here. We are just returning it, so print index. And let's try this out again. So I expect to print out the index here. Yep. So this is the index of the selected row. So this is row 1, 0, with index 0, 1, 2, and so on. However, as you see, this is not a plain number. This is actually a tuple with one item. So what we need to do is a very simple trick, and we just grab the item with index 0 of the tuple, which is number 2 in this case, 0 in this case, and so on. And then we might try this again. View all, and now we get single numbers. Great. So we're very close, but not there yet, because we need to get the actual tuple with all the values of the row. And to get that, you need to apply another method called get. So let's say the selected tuple, so the actual tuple that we want, the actual row that we want, is equal to list1.get index. So you can read it like this. From the list box, get the tuple with index x. And then we can try this out. So what are we getting here? And don't get confused with this row. This is being printed out because in the backend script we actually have a search function being printed out. So this is printing the output of the search function. So this function is saying, give me the row with John Smith as author name. And next time this will not be executed. So back, what we want to do is select a row, and we get the row printed out there as a tuple. So that's great. So what's next? Well, next is we need to pass the ID of the selected tuple to the delete function of the backend script. We go to the delete selected button, command equals delete command. That's how I'm gonna call the script, and that should go here. Def delete command, and what we have here is backend dot delete, and again the delete method gets as argument the ID. So we have a tuple called get selected row, so we need to return the selected tuple. So if we call the function now, get selected row, and we need the item with index 0 from a get selected row. So save the script, and we got an error at line 24. I don't have the colon here. Try out again. View, and let's try to delete the moon. Delete. And Python is saying that the get selected row is missing one required positional argument, and that's the event argument. And so Python is right, because here we have an event parameter, so we need to pass that as an argument. But here we are calling the function without any argument, so we're getting an error. On the other hand, we cannot remove this event because this function is also being executed by the bind method. So in that case, the hero of the day here would be a global variable. So you might already know that local variables, like the selected tuple, is a local variable because it's defined inside a function. So if you print this tuple outside the function, selected tuple, you will get an error because Python will say, oh sorry, I don't recognize this, this is an undefined object, because local variables make sense only inside the function. So in that case, we can use global variables. And the way to create a global variable is by using the global keyword and then declaring the name of the variable that you want to create. So in that case, if you print out the selected tuple outside the function, you get the value of the selected tuple. And the value of the selected tuple in this case would be the tuple with the values of the row. So in that case, we don't need to return the selected tuple because we can simply point to the selected tuple variable in that case. And we need to fix our delete function here. So we want selected tuple, and we want the item with index 0 from the selected tuple. So let's execute again and view all, and let's delete the moon, delete selected, view all, and the moon is gone. So it seems to be working. Now I would also want to fill the entries with a selected tuple or row if you like. So we need to use the insert function of the enter widget, and we could actually write those methods inside the getSelectedRow function, because you know, when the user clicks one of the rows, when they select one of the rows, we immediately want to fill those entries with values. And the first would be the title entry, and we want to make sure the entry is empty. So delete 0 to end. Delete everything from the entry if there is something. And then E1 insert. So what we want to insert in the author entry, well, that would be the selected tuple with an index of 1. So the ID has an index of 0. The third title has an index of 1. And this would be the same for the other entries as well. So we have E1, E2, E3, and E4. And then here we want to grab the author name. Here we want the year and the ISBN number in here. Great, so I hope this will work. It should work. So view all, select something, and insert method is missing one required argument. I think I forgot to put where I want to insert the new values. So we need end here, 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 and here. So let's see again, view all, and now it seems to be working. So trees and grass and bandstand and so on. And let me try to delete this. Delete, view all, and the entry is gone. Great, so now let's go ahead, without wasting any time, let's go ahead and implement the update function. So back to our backend script, the update function gets an ID and title, author, year, and ISBN. So unlike the delete function, which only got one item, this gets 5 items actually. So in the delete command function, we pass the selected tuple with an index of 0. Now the update function will be similar structure, but then we will have multiple arguments here. So we have ID, title, author, year, and ISBN. So selected tuple with an index of 1, selected tuple with an index of 2, selected tuple with an index of 3, and selected tuple with an index of 4. And then we need to add that function to the update button. So update command. All right, and I forgot to change this. Update command. This should work, so let's see. I've forgotten to pass the name of the parameter here. So command equals update command. Save and execute again. And view all. Let's try to update this row. So let's say 9. And you press update selected. And yet another error. Don't get scared about errors. The more errors you see, the more familiar you become with Python. It's important to focus on the error, so see what line you're getting the error and try to understand the type of the error and the message you're getting. So in this case, this says delete takes 1 positional argument, but 5 were given. Oh, we didn't execute the delete function here. We executed the update button, which gets an update command function. And you go to the update command. So the update command, backend delete. So that's why we are getting this error. The update command is actually executing the delete method of the backend script. So we want update instead of delete. And save the script and execute again. View all. I want to really update this number here. So 9. Update selected. View all. And it's not working. And in this case we're not even getting an error here, so you may feel lost at the moment. So what you could do in this case is check what you are returning in your update command function. So you know that you can isolate problems by using print statements. So let's say you want to check what you are sending to the update function. I know the problem here, but just to show you the way you can troubleshoot things. So print out and execute this again. View all, get these grasslands, update selected, and you see that the tuple is being printed out as it is. So this number is not changing. Actually, I didn't change it, so let me change this again. Let's say 24 and update selected, and so you see that the number 24 is not being printed out here. So that means we are sending to the database this record again, so we're not sending the updated record. So why is that? If you have already found it from earlier when I wrote this function, that's very great. If you haven't, well, the reason is that we are sending to the update method the selected tuple, and the selected tuple is the one that the user has selected. So it's not the actual entries that the user is sending to the update command. So in that case, we actually want to send out these values, so the current values of the entries. So I'll copy this and paste it just here. Okay, and the first selected tuple is the ID, so we want to keep the ID of the selected row because the user is changing the other values, not the ID. And this looks fine. The bracket closes here. Save. So delete this one. Save. Execute again. View all. Go to this and let's say 3. Update selected. View all and 3 is there. Delete. View all. It goes away. You can add it again because you have it in your entries. Add entry. And it was added again. And you can see it here. So everything is working great. And we want to close this program, but the close button is not working at the moment, so let's go ahead and implement that as well. And that's very straightforward. You just go here and command equals to. So you want to destroy the window, right? So window dot destroy. That's it. Save the script. Try it out. So these are working as usual. Close and the window closes. And you may also want to put a title to your window. And use the WM title method of the window object. Title. Let's say book store. And you should see that name in the title bar. So finally we are done with this program, and I know there might be things to improve, and I would welcome any suggestions from you so that we could improve the program. Programs have versions, so this is version 0, you could say. And I hope you found this very useful and learned a lot from this. So I'll talk to you later.